This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee to talk about the Bad Batch's brand new episode. This episode is called Tribe. It's episode 206, and it is a special episode, so we brought in a couple of extra special guest hosts. First, of course, I'm going to bring in Mason Zehr. Mason, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
So how has it been being a co-host on Coffee with Kenobi the past month or so?
Good.
Pretty
Fun.
good. Are you mobbed at your grade school
Not
by,
really.
by fans? No? Okay,
No.
well, we'll have to put out better flyers or something. Well, also joining us on the show is another father and son team. This is Jason and Henrik Mach. It's Mach, right?
Mach.
Yeah.
Mach, yep, good. Jason and Henrik Mach are with us. Jason, of course, is a regular on CWK Live. And you and I got to meet formally face-to-face in Peoria last summer when I did my book signing. I got to sit by and watch A New Hope. So it's such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. And Henrik is Jason's son. Henrik is 10 years old. And Henrik, this is your first podcast. Am I right?
Yep.
I thought so. And Jason, is this your first podcast?
It is. Yep.
Oh, I love it. Well, how about that? Well, this is great. We're very excited to have you both on the show. We're going to talk all about this episode. And Jason, I will start with you.
Sure.
Why don't you go ahead and give me, we'll save our letter grade for the very, very end, because we'll just kind of use our conversation to help lead. Now people guess what they think we're going to give as a letter grade. But give us one word to describe the episode and then your overall thoughts on the episode.
Okay. So I'm going to pull a play from the Dan Zehr playbook, and I'm going to give 3 words, but they're hyphenated. So they count as one word. So my word is true to form. And what I mean by that, and this gets into the overall thoughts, is I thought this episode was just really true to form for what I like most about this series. It's got action, it's got story, and some deeper story than just the treasure hunting or the guard duty that we've seen the past couple weeks. It's got character development. I think it's got a really good amount of humor, a good level of humor. So this is everything that I love about the Bad Batch. So it was really true to form for me.
I love it. And I think that is an excellent use of a hyphenated modifier. Very good.
I've
Well
been saving
done.
that one up all day.
I love it. Well, that is a home run right off the bat. Henrik, what about you? What one word would you use to describe this episode, Tribe, and overall thoughts on it?
Epic.
Epic is a good word. Tell me why.
Because there was a bunch of explosions, the Wookiee Jedi, and yeah.
Hey, I think that is totally okay. I see Mason nodding his head. Mason, what about you? What is the word you would use to describe the episode and overall thoughts on it?
Suspenseful.
Oh, and tell us why.
At the beginning, when it's like the business that they're at is like Vanguard Axis, and they're like trying to save the Wookiee, but they don't know it when they get there. And when Omega says something is off about this place. And then big fights at the end.
Yeah, the explosion things that Henrik mentioned. Very good. I like that. So my word is beautiful. I thought this episode was absolutely beautiful. The animation continues to excel. There's a sequence at the end, a great battle scene where it's very black. The exteriors are black, but then you can see the lightsaber and the different laser blasts popping. And it's almost hard to make it out, but it's not. The notion of the spirituality of the trees and the emphasis on sticking together to fight for what is right, liberating people who are oppressed. It just had a lot of beautiful themes. And like you said, Jason, I thought this had everything that not only do I like about the Bad Batch, but everything that I like about Star Wars. I mean, it's a terrific episode. It really is. So probably going to give you a hint to what my letter grade is, but who knows? We'll see. We will see. So let's go ahead and kick it off. Mason, you mentioned the Vanguard Access is the name of this group.
Not
Axis. Axis. Yes, thank you. And they are a series of like they're mercenaries or they're what is their title? Didn't it say in the captions? Anybody remember what their job is?
I believe they're smugglers.
Smugglers. Yeah, smugglers sounds right.
Hunter says you can't smuggle living beings.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, very good. See, this is why I have everybody on the show. Very good. Yeah, they're smugglers. And I like at the beginning, Tech kind of takes a back seat in this one. He's an able translator. He has created some custom chain codes that they are selling, undoubtedly at the behalf of Sid, I would think. But then things take a turn because of Omega showing up. So, Jason, let's start with you. At the beginning, it's no surprise that Omega is Omega, but just kind of talk about her impact on this and your reactions to being reacquainted with. You know what? Let's pause a second on that. I do want to talk about that, but Gunji is a character from the Clone Wars. I think it's is it 5? Does that sound?
Yeah, it's 5.
Season 5. Yeah, and this is a series of episodes where Ahsoka helps train some younglings, and Gunji was one of the standouts. What did the two of you think, Jason Henrik, when you saw Gunji back?
Well, I never saw Gunji before, so I was like, oh my gosh, a Wookiee Jedi.
Wait do you see his lightsaber hilt? It's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah.
What about you, Jason?
I didn't know who he was at first, but then it dawned on me that there was a Wookiee Padawan in the Clone Wars, and I thought, oh, could this be? And then as soon as, he pulled his lightsaber, to him, I knew that's who it was. And then, of course, they said his name shortly thereafter. So, yeah, I was very excited to see him. I looked him up it's been a while since I've seen that story arc in season 5 of Clone Wars, but I did look him up in the Clone Wars character encyclopedia. And I thought it was really interesting. The write-up in there said he was impulsive and aggressive. And those were things that he had to learn how to either control or overcome.
Right.
And that's one of the character development points that stood out to me in this episode, because as I watched him, he looks like he's grown. He looks like he's learned how to control himself and how to master his impulses and his aggression as a Wookiee and as a Jedi. I really liked how they did that. And he was never a major character in the Clone Wars, but they did a really good job of even developing a minor character like that.
Agreed. He was in just 3 or 4 episodes, I believe. And he always, it's interesting that, because that's Jason Fry's book, The Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he's described like that, because, this is a character that, while we haven't seen it, we know about Order 66. You can see the terror on his face and how he holds his body posture when he sees clones, because in his mind, these are the soldiers that tried to kill my peers, the fellow Jedi. So it's certainly something that's frightening him. But yeah, he has to learn to control his anger to be a Jedi and not just go berserk, because he's clearly been kind of put into submission. It makes you wonder why he doesn't use the Force earlier, but I'm assuming that when you've been surrounded by all these different robots or droids, I should say, and all these other horrific things have happened to you, maybe there is a lot of fear. Mason, I know you and I watched this arc with the younglings a couple of times, but it's been a while. What did you think about seeing Gunji back?
I think it was cool. Like, when I first saw him in Clone Wars, I thought it was cool that there was a Wookiee Jedi. And then when I saw him here, I thought, oh, there's that Wookiee Jedi from, like, those younglings ones.
And I started getting confused with Buryaga, who is a Wookiee from the High Republic books, but that Wookiee is a lot older, and his current status is unknown. So is Gunji. So we see him, and then I'll go back to my original question, Jason. Talk about Omega and how she encounters Gunji and sort of how that plays out.
Well, I love how she just kind of jumped right in there once she saw the droids, I don't know, I wouldn't say torturing, but subduing Gungi, she didn't hesitate. She just jumped right in there and tried to free him. And I really like that they show her empathy and her compassion. Continuing. That's one of her greatest strengths. We saw it in season 1, and it's still there here in season 2. And Mason, you had mentioned the suspense of that whole scene. I had written down the tension of the chase. That was exactly what I had in mind. That level of suspense, and I really love the look of fear and worry that Omega got on her face. At least that's how I interpreted it. I think Gungi had jumped up top on the crates, or he was not with Omega at the moment. And she just looked like she was worried or afraid. And I like that they made her look that way. It showed some humanity to her as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. And we're actually going to talk about her humanity in a little bit as well. But that was really cool to me as well, because she is someone that is so continually compassionate. And I've said many times, she's my favorite member of the Bad Batch. It used to be Hunter, and Hunter is great. But Omega is just so human, and so she's like the best of what humanity has to offer, because she's tough, she's brave, but she's extremely compassionate. She's extremely empathetic. Henrik, how do you feel about Omega?
Yeah, I kind of like how, kind of what my dad said. I just like how she just didn't really hesitate and go back to Echo. She just came in and almost kind of like saved Gungi's life.
It's true. And it was really cool when she's holding that bow and he's holding his lightsaber and they're next to each other. That's a pretty cool image. Yeah. Mason, I know you love Omega. Tell me what you thought about Omega in this section.
I put down in my notes, Omega giving Gungi food, because either, I think it was Tech or Hunter that said, no, I think it was Tech. He said, I know why he's afraid of us, because the clones killed all the Jedi. And then Omega says, but he still has to eat, and he gives him food.
I'm really glad you brought that up. The act culturally, no matter where you are in the world, fictional or otherwise, the act of offering food is a huge sign of brotherhood, of community, of trying to make a connection with someone. And so that is very much like a peace offering, and you're also offering to nurture and give Gungi food, and he eats it, of course, right away. I love that it's in that little bento type box like Luke Skywalker has in The Empire Strikes Back. Speaking of your awesome poster, you notice that too, Henrik?
Yeah.
I want to point out, by the way, that when Henrik joins us on CWK Live, my top 5 almost always match up with you, and I always feel really proud of that, because I know you're a smart fellow. That's pretty cool. All right, so yeah, there's really not a ton more. I don't remember seeing these Vanguard Access before. Do you remember them, Mason, at all?
Mm-mm.
No, everyone's shaking their no. I don't remember them at all. I like the voice work on this. The scene where Gungi pulls the lightsaber to him and ignites it and it's green is marvelous. And if people remember who have seen the Younglings arc in the Clone Wars, his lightsaber looks like it's made out of tree bark, which makes sense because he is able to customize it based on his own wishes. He has to conquer, I believe, when he gets his kyber crystal, when he goes into the cave, I'm pretty sure that he is the one that has to walk across that ice field. And
it's like that, or it's like, I forget the other ones, but it's like either him or the blue guy that has to face fear.
Yeah, I think, well, that is fear because he's afraid about the ice cracking and then him falling into it. So he has to go really, really slowly and be really, really patient. I think he's the first one in that episode. We should all rewatch it because it's a really terrific episode.
I never saw it.
You'll love it. In fact, I want you to tell me what you think of it after you see it because it's really, really good. So Hunter has this really important comment. He says, he's a Jedi. He's not safe anywhere. And instantly, like, no one in the Bad Batch is skeptical. Tech doesn't say a word. It's not the first time, but Hunter doesn't even hesitate or think about it. To my recollection, this is the first time he's not afraid of putting Omega or anyone into jeopardy. He just thinks, we've got to help Gunji. And he acts on it right away. Mason, does this make you think any differently of Hunter, or do you just still love him no matter what?
I think it's the reason he did is because when Omega didn't hesitate to help Gunji, he didn't hesitate to help Omega and Gunji.
Oh, so it's like he is taking the cue from Omega. Interesting. What about you, Jason Henrik?
Go ahead.
I still like Hunter.
I love him.
Yeah, even sometimes he's overprotective. I still like him.
But that's a parent's job.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is tricky. But I think it's cool. It shows that she is maturing and growing up, and it shows that we always have faith in our kids. You still want to protect them, but he just knows that this is a fight. I think he sees in Gunji that this is a child, right? And this child needs protected. Now, not every child has a laser sword, as Hunter describes it. I love that.
He says, "Oh, and you could keep that laser sword handy."
Yeah, because they don't want to see it because it might cause some problems. So they go to Kashyyyk, Kashyyyyk. I remember that because I've had to type it plenty of times. But right off the bat, we kind of get a nice foreshadowing of what we're going to see. There are a couple of spider type arachnid creatures that come out of the forest. They are Kinrath, Kinrath. We only know that because we have the captions on it. It says Kinrath chattering. Again, I know I say this all the time, but you should watch it with the captions on because it gives you the names of some of these beasts. Not the giant Wookiee battle cat looking things, but we'll get to that. But that we see right away these spider type creatures, the Kinrath, are there. And then Mason, what happens with the Kinrath?
When you either like break the webs or hit on the trees, they come down and they like attack you. Because if you attack their habitat, they attack you. And later in the episode, when they're all fighting, the Wookiees use like their sticks and they pound on the trees
to bring them down.
Yeah, and then all the Kinraths go and attack the Trandoshans.
Right, because they say, Jason, you remember what they say about the Kinrath, about how to not have problems with them?
Oh.
I think it was something about not threatening them.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact line, but I think it was something about not threatening them because I believe it was Hunter had Wrecker lower his blaster.
Yes. And Henrik, what were you going to say?
That, because Tech said, translated Gunji's words to the Bad Batch and said that if you threaten them, they will attack you.
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I keep him around. He's got a much better memory than I do.
See, I know the feeling. Same with Mason. It's very much like this is their habitat, this is their world. Just like the Wookiees, by the way. Just leave them alone. Unless they feel threatened, they're going to let you pass. So they look at them and then they skittle off into the trees, and it's not a big deal. It's a great little metaphor. Then we find out what the real problem is on Kashyyyk. If you know your Star Wars lore, the Empire takes over Kashyyyk and enslaves the Wookiees. And they eventually are liberated by Han Solo and Chewbacca in the second Aftermath novel, which is a terrific novel. But that doesn't happen for a while in the timeline. For this one, we find out that there are a number of Trandoshans, to no one's surprise. We've known forever that Trandoshans are noted for hunting Wookiee. And I would say the Wookiee and Trandoshans is never officially said, but there's like their arch enemies. But the Wookiees are, they are always holding them back. When Bosk was in the Clone Wars, he is on Kashyyyk as well, hunting Wookiees, and Chewbacca is in that episode. But Chewbacca is not in this episode. Chewbacca, of course, is with Han, traveling the galaxy. We meet the enemy, the Trandoshan, who was in charge of these invaders. Does anyone remember their name?
Commander Venomor.
Commander Venomor. Venomor. Again, thank you. Closed captions. There doesn't seem to be anything particularly. I don't know what Jason and Henrik. What do you think about Commander Venomor and the Trandoshans in general?
They seem to be, to me, they seem to be typical Trandoshans, from what we've seen, hunting the Wookiees and, either in it for money or just in it for sport. Nothing really stood out to me too much about them. They seemed like they were being Trandoshans.
Yeah.
And hunting Wookiees.
Yeah, I never got why they always hunted Wookiees, but yeah.
Yeah, they're mean, they're strong, they're clearly fearless, but it's easy to be tough when you've got a blaster and the Wookiees are chained and unarmed.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really unfortunate. Let's be honest, Trandoshans look cool. I mean, Bosk is a really cool figure / character. But the Trandoshans, besides Bosk, they always have this weird kind of a square look to them. It's sort of hard to explain.
Mm-hmm.
But they all seem exactly the same. They're mean, they're nasty, they're bullies, and then they eventually will get their comeuppance. Let's see. There's a great action scene, and then we meet the female leader of this particular Wookiee tribe. And it's safe to assume this is why this episode is called Tribe. Her name is Yana, Yanna.
I think it's Yana.
Yana. Okay, we'll go with Yana. I believe.
Potato.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They right away. Well, first of all, Mason, what do you think about Yana? Now you got me double. I don't know. The Wookiee.
Just do what you want.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, the reason it's called Tribe, and I think it's interesting. And Hunter says, I think it's Tech. He says they worship the trees. They are their allies. They think this planet belongs to the trees.
That's true. Which brings in the spiritual side that I think is so beautiful about this episode. Mm-hmm. Henrik, do you speak Shriwook? Did you understand anything that Yana was saying?
I climb trees, but I still don't understand.
Oh, well, that's a good start, I feel like. What did you both think of Yana and sort of the role of this new tribe?
I really liked that she introduced this real strong sense of spirituality into the episode. I think it was already there, but I think she really enhanced it through the things that she says and just the way that she carries herself and how she and Gunji kind of knelt down and leaned their foreheads or touched their foreheads together, connecting with one another. I really liked that depth that she brought to this episode. And that was another reason that this episode just really was true to form for me. I really like when Star Wars brings in that sense of spirituality and that depth.
Right. And I like that too. And the sense of warmth and compassion that was sorely missing from Andor, because it's a very different kind of a show.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hunter has a great line that I wrote down. It says, "Jedi or not, he's still a child. He needs his people." I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I was going to talk about the youthful aspect of this. I love, and I talked about this last week with Entombed, but the fact that Omega and Gunji, while they're different, as far as species, one is a clone / human, one is a Wookiee / Jedi, which a Jedi isn't a species, but you know what I mean. I think it's important to remind us that this is not called Star Battle. It's called Star Wars. There are lots of battles. There are lots of things that these two have seen that kids shouldn't have to see to preserve their innocence and just be able to be kids. Neither of these two are able to be kids, but they don't use it for anything other than to grow and to be strong and to protect and stand up for their people. Gunji, we don't know what Gunji's fate is going to be on Kashyyyk or where he's going to end up in the galaxy. But what we know is that when the time came, child or not, he fought alongside his people and he helped to liberate them from these Trandoshan invaders. And I think that is just so inspiring and so beautiful. There's a great scene at the end, right before the epic battle, where the spider people / I think you call them back the Kinrath, where they take care of that Trandoshan Venomore. there's this great part where they have to talk to the trees. Mason, what's that about?
It's like when they talk to the trees, it's kind of like I said earlier. They're like their allies.
Mm-hmm.
They trust.
There's a very important connection between the Wookiees and nature and their environment. Henrik, what did you like about the part with the trees? First you were like, are the trees going to talk back? What were you thinking?
No, but when they said that the trees had a plan, I was like, what can trees possibly do? But then I realized, oh geez, that was actually a really good plan.
Henrik says, I'm like, well, okay, or what does he say about the trees?
He says the trees have a plan. All right, whatever they say.
Yeah, he's
And
been
for
really
Hunter,
good.
Yeah, for Hunter, that's humor. He never really cracks jokes. He's not the punchline guy in the group, but that was funny for Hunter.
I agree. And it also shows that he's very much he's going along with the flow much more. He's not trying to control things. He's not coming from a place of angst, which again he has a right to do because of the insane legacy of the Empire, hunting them down or just being the Empire, being so nasty to everyone. So there's a great sequence at the end. And Henrik, I know you said you love the battles.
Yeah.
Tell me some of your favorite action scenes in this episode, and Mason, I want to hear yours too.
Where Gunji kind of like trapped the leader with all the like a ring of fire, then the spider things came down and wrapped him up and probably ate him after that.
Yeah, I think that's right. Mason, any favorite action moments for you?
Just like Henrik said.
Really, same one.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that in that part, I think you said to me, "I love this episode." The fire looks gorgeous too. I mean, it looks really good.
Like the animation and like your word, beautiful.
Yes, exactly.
Is that hyphenated or not?
That's exactly right. That's exactly why one of the reasons why I thought of beautiful, because it just looked great. The lighting, the power of, the evil of the Trandoshan's is the light is showing us they can't hide from their nastiness, and the planet fights back, which is cool.
Is your word beautiful hyphenated or not?
No, beautiful is not hyphenated. That is one word. I'm going to say my hyphen. Jason used the hyphenated modifier for this episode. Jason, what action sequences stood out for you?
There was one. I don't remember if it was in the final battle. I think it might have been in an earlier battle, but there was a scene when Gunji attacked one of the Trandoshans. I believe it was in the earlier battle, and I thought he had an opportunity to strike him down with his lightsaber, but he didn't. He just jumped and kicked him a couple of times really hard and knocked him out, and that stood out to me. I know that was the earlier battle. I found it interesting that the Bad Batch weren't using their stun settings. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It just stood out to me, and I know, they weren't fighting. Well, there were some clone troopers there, but they didn't seem to. I lost track of them. They didn't seem to stick around, or they didn't seem to play a strong role in that battle. But it was just it was striking to see them not using their stun settings.
Kind of like they split up.
Yeah, because you're right. They were they're there initially, and then you're right. They disappear, and I'm sure it's because they're not fighting their brothers. They're fighting enemies. But I noticed that right away. Look, there's no stun settings here. That move you're talking about, I wrote that and I put Gunji kick move. Yeah, because that was pretty cool. It was almost like a little kind of like a Bruce Lee thing or something from The Matrix.
Yeah, and it shows that he's learned how to control his aggression.
Exactly. Yeah, he didn't. He could have decapitated. He could have pulled an Anakin Skywalker or something, but no, he did not.
Yeah, Anakin would have handled that differently.
Yes, that would have been a lot different fight. So, and is there anything else as we're about to give our letter grades? Is there anything else about the episode that anyone would like to bring up? Mason, why don't you start us off?
It's when they're eating I have two things. Like when they're
Yeah.
eating the soup, and Wrecker says, I could get used to this
Yeah.
because he likes it. And then
Yes.
the other one is when Commander Venomore accidentally flamethrow. Like I put accidentally flamethrows another Trandoshan without even noticing. Because like he's using his flamethrower and he shoots it and he doesn't even notice that he hit another Trandoshan. He just
And doesn't even seem to care.
Mhm.
Yeah, because he's not very nice. There's a reason his name is Venom.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like a name from G.I. Joe.
It totally does. Yeah, it totally would have been a figure I would have had. Jason, anything you want to bring up that we didn't talk about?
Yeah, Mason, you touched on Wrecker. Wrecker had a couple of good, funny moments, and I think he's usually the one that brings the humor into the episode. Him and Tech, although I don't think Tech means to, he just is funny.
Uh-huh.
But after the battle's over, Wrecker says, "I guess the trees knew what they were doing." I found that pretty funny, and then I had to look at this several times to make sure I was seeing it correctly. But after the battle was over and they were in the Wookiee hut and they were all sharing that drink and sharing a meal, at first I wasn't sure, but I thought Wrecker was speaking Shriwook.
Yeah, he was.
And I had to look really closely and rewind it 2 or 3 times, and he was well. I don't know if it was actually Shriwook or if he thought he was speaking Shriwook.
Right.
Either way, I found that pretty humorous.
It's like in the second episode of The Mandalorian when the Jawas taunt Din Djarin and say, "You speak Jawa like a Wookiee." Henrik, anything we didn't talk about that you'd like to bring up?
Yeah, Gunji and Omega are kind of like this same thing. They partner up good because they're both like not hesitant to like get in battle and save lives.
Right, and I love that. I think they're cool. I love when Omega's with Gunji or Hera or whoever she teams up with. She just is like a magnet for kindness and for cool people, which is really good. The only thing I want to bring up is I think the symbolism of Echo at first won't try the water / soup just because he's like, oh, no thanks. He thinks it's gross or whatever.
Because the Wookiee drank out of the same thing as he offered him. And he was like,
right.
No.
Exactly. And then at the end, he's like, he just grabs it right away after the battle because Echo had, we forget about Echo, but when we first met Echo in the Bad Batch episode of the last season of the Clone Wars, he had very much had a lot of reasons to be nervous and scared of everyone because of him being plugged into that computer and how they were using him. But he is initially standoffish, maybe because it was gross. I mean, who knows? But he just downs it, showing right away that he is as connected as they all are, which we knew. But it was cool to see that represented on camera like that. All right, I love it. Well, let's give our final letter grades. I think we're all going to have pretty high letter grades, but I could be wrong. Henrik, why don't you start it off for us?
I did an A.
Okay, you want to say any reasons why it's an A? Although I think we have a pretty good sample size.
Yeah, because I kind of wanted more out of the episode.
Okay.
So that's why it's not an A plus, but also it's too good to be an A-.
Hey, that's great. That's very well said. I like that. I like that. Jason, what about you?
Well, I also give it a solid A. This one, like I said at the beginning, it just checks all the boxes for me in terms of what it brings to us in the story. I really like how we see the Bad Batch doing something more meaningful in this episode than, like I said, than treasure hunting or bailing Sid out of trouble again. I really did enjoy the previous 2 episodes. They were a lot of fun. But this one, for me, got back to what I really enjoy about the Bad Batch the most. And that was seeing them do something more meaningful, really kind of step into the fight and really do what they can do. And I also really liked Hunter. He had a couple of lines in the episode. There was one at the end that really stood out to me. And then, Dan, I think you mentioned the other one where he says earlier, he's a Jedi, he's not safe anywhere. At the end, he says they're both just kids, but they don't get to be.
Right.
And to me, that just shows the weight of this war, especially how it weighs on Hunter's heart. And, to be honest, up to this point, I was a little bit frustrated with him for hesitating to kind of jump in and get a little more involved like Echo wants to do. And I think the rest of the batch wants to do too. He seems to hesitate on that. And it was a little bit frustrating for me. But after hearing these two lines and seeing him not hesitate in this episode, I think I understand him better through this. And he does have to watch out for his squad. He's got to protect them. So I do understand him better. I think the story really does a great job of bringing that out. So solid 8 for me.
I agree. Very well said. Very well explained. Mason, what about you? You wrote on your paper, because Mason and I take notes when we watch the episode together, but I didn't look at it. I'm not a cheater. So I'm looking forward to what your grade is.
A and 7/10.
Oh, an A and 7/10. Okay. So like a 96.7 or something like that.
Something like
Okay, tell us why.
because like all we said, like the whole episode really, the beginning and then that battle with the Gunji and Commander
Venomore.
And then the Wrecker.
Being Wrecker.
Yep.
Yes. My grade is a little different than all of yours. Mine is an A+. This is everything that I want from a Bad Batch episode. It introduces some old characters in new and surprising ways. So we get to see their growth and maturity, the changes in the animation with them, the connection to other people, to family, to nature, stuff with the Force, because we don't get to see a lot of the Force in the Bad Batch. I always love lightsabers. I like seeing the bad guys get their comeuppance. I like seeing the good guys win, and I like the idea of family and community and hope surviving over anything else. Plus, the animation and music are tremendous. So it's definitely an A+ for me. It's this and The Solitary Clone are my two favorite episodes so far in season 1.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think we all are in agreement on that. Mason, you are too, right? I don't want to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure that's what you said before.
My favorite is the Solitary Clone.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
Excellent. All right, well, hey, Jason and Henrik, thank you both so very much for being on Coffee with Kenobi. You did amazing. It was great to hear your insights, and to get to Henrik, it's great to see you face to face finally instead of while you're typing. I loved having you with us on CWK Live. And Jason, it's great to see you again, my friend. I consider it an honor that I got to watch New Hope in the theater sitting next to you, which is super cool.
That was a lot of fun.
That was amazing. So please let everybody know if they want to reach out to you, where they can do so.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invite,
Yeah.
having us on the show. This was a dream come true for me. I've been listening for 5 years or so now, so this was a lot of fun. I don't really have a huge social media presence. I think if anybody does want to get in touch with me or, Henrik through me, I think just look us up in the CWK Cafe. Hang around there, comment, and sometimes I'm just kind of hanging out in the background, but I am in there. So more than happy to talk Star Wars or anything else with anybody.
And of course, CWK Live, you two always are like in the front row, which I love. And Mason can also be found occasionally on CWK Live in the cafe, or you can always get in touch with him through his dad, and that's me. Well, thank you again so much, everybody, for joining us. Make sure to watch this episode again of Tribe. Get your top 5 list ready so you can join us next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, and you could share your top 5s with us. On behalf of myself, Mason Zehr, and Jason and Henrik Mach, may the Force be with you, everyone, and remember, this is the podcast you're looking for. See you next time.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here. Move along. Move along.